Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to this public town hall. We appreciate your attendance. I see a lot of people are here. First, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Mayor Bob Reish. To my left is our Mayor Pro Tem Wendy Bucknam. We'll be moderating this. Just to kind of set the ground rules, we're here tonight to discuss methods to keep your home safe. Now, this isn't a forum to discuss at this point why your insurance rates have gone up, or why the CAL FIRE map was done the way it is. That's out of our hands. That's a state issue. But this all came about for a simple reason. The reason was that I felt there was this need when I came on to council to understand what you can do with your home. Now, whether you believe in climate change or global warming, whatever that is, I think we all can agree over the last few years it's simply gotten warmer. Our climate has changed. What Mission Viejo was like in the 80s isn't what Mission Viejo is like today. So how do we adjust for that? And that's kind of what we're looking at, because the danger definitely is greater. I understand, and as you should too, when you start talking about what you're going to do if you had an incident, everything is going to cost more. Building costs more, there's increasing cost of materials, and there's new regulations and things that you have to take into account as far as how you build your home that didn't exist for most of us 50 years ago when our home was built. So again, the reason for this town hall really started for me when I became a member of the Orange County Fire Authority and had the opportunity with our Division Chief Mall to tour a place called the Coastal Fire. And a few years ago in Laguna Niguel, there's a fire that came up through the Bend Bridge golf course. And we'll talk about that with OCFA, but it brought me to a real consideration, because I looked around and yes, there was devastation, but there was a home that stayed. There was a home that stayed. And I began to wonder, why were they different than everyone else? Unfortunately, a few weeks after I started really looking into this, we had the Los Angeles fires, the Palisades fire and the Altadena fire, and we began to realize very quickly, if you looked at television, you saw that home and that home and that home. For some reason, they didn't burn, and everything around it did. So why? And part of that, I think, is what we're going to try to discuss tonight. Why, and perhaps things that you may be able to do as well. I spent countless hours both in the air and on the ground looking at the entire side of Mission Viejo, trying to understand what this looks like, knowing that someday we will have a Santa Ana fire, or Santa Ana wind. And in the right conditions, whether it's brush or just you happen to live on a hillside with a lot of homes, and 3 streets up, somebody's home catches fire, where does all that go and what happens? So this is the whole purpose here. I firmly believe that even with the best insurance possible, you have the very best policy. I believe everyone here in this room would much rather come home to their home than do a nice check. Because invariably, there's things that are in your home that no longer exist. They don't have an intrinsic value or a true value, but they have an intrinsic value to you. And between losing those and just simply the time it takes to rebuild your home, all of that time and effort, that's a needless waste of your time, your energy, your sanity that I don't think you want. So this is kind of where we're going to look at. So tonight we're going to discuss things that you can do from our experts. You'll hear from representatives from the State Insurance Commissioner's Office who are going to be online as well. And beyond that, I said, well, let's look a little further. So everyone in this room, if you got a call right now that says you have 15 minutes to evacuate your home, do you know what you're going to do? Do you know what you're going to take? The reality is you'll probably spend 10 minutes trying to figure it out. And not being cute, but being honest, you want to make sure you get the dog and the kids and those few things that are really important. You don't want to be down the street and remember you forgot something. So if you can have what's necessary to know what's most important to you, you have the best chance, if you have to leave, to be able to take the things that are important. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to my Mayor Pro Tem Wendy Bucknam to introduce our speakers, and we'll get started.
Thank you. There are some seats kind of over on this side, so come on in and fill in so that you're comfortable. And I'm sure if you're two of you together, I'm sure somebody would move over for you. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce each of our speakers tonight, and I'm going to have each of you do a bio, please, just very short bio, and your experience and why you've come to this place with your expertise. So first, we have Eric Nelson. I'm going over in this direction and heading this way. Eric Nelson from the building industry. We have Jamie Hackwith, who is with Patrick Prindeville Insurance, and is with the insurance industry. We have virtually Andrea Valdez and Lisa Strange from the California Department of Insurance, and I just really want to give a special thank you to them for making the effort to come to this. As they may, I hope they can see, but this room we're now at about standing room only. We do have some seats over here. Next, we have Division Chief Shane Mall with OCFA. And then we have Captain Jason Ives, OCSD, or Orange County Sheriff's Department, our captain here in Mission Viejo. And then CAL FIRE was unable to attend. They were invited, but in each of our speakers will have about 10 minutes. At the end, we're going to have a Q&A after all the speakers, and there'll be about 3 minutes. If you could, please keep your comments too. And depending on how many speaker slips we have, we may adjust that, so stay tuned. And then I also want to let you know this is going to be audibly recorded so that it can be heard after the meeting.
Be posted on the city website.
And it also will be posted on the city website. Okay?
Go for it.
All right, so we're going to start with Eric Nelson with the building industry. Eric, go ahead.
Thank you, Wendy. Good evening, everybody. Appreciate you all coming out on really an important topic. As Wendy said, my name is Eric Nelson. I work for a local home builder, and I'm a previous past president of the Orange County chapter of the Building Industry Association. I also sit on a couple boards, primarily focused on home building and home building in California. I'm a local native. I grew up here in Orange County. I live here in South Orange County, and I'm a graduate of Orange County's fire. I don't know what they call it anymore, but it was, back when I went through in the late 80s, was the fire sciences. So I have an AA degree in fire safety. Wanted to be a fireman, but I could not get a job, and I ended up in the development business instead, which has worked out well. But I think, the first thing and the most important thing, and the way I like to look at things, is to compare and contrast. And when you think back to the 1960s, 70s, cars, they didn't have airbags. We didn't have seat belts. There was no crash testing whatsoever. And, since then, the death rate in automobile accidents has dropped well over 70% when you look at it in a death rate per mile. And that happened really simply because we regulated it, we improved it, and we enforced it. And from the 1970s till today, we've had a real high level of safety focus, not only by manufacturers, but our regulatory bodies. But when we shift and look at homes, and we look at homes built in or around wildfire zones, we don't see that. I like to refer to most of that as sort of the non-seatbelt era of homes, which makes up roughly 93% of the housing stock in California, which is scary when you think about it. And I think the problem, at least in terms of the way I look at it, isn't the new stuff. The new stuff that we build today is extremely safe. It's fire hardened. It doesn't burn, and even when it does, it quickly extinguishes itself. And it's not a matter of when, it's not a matter of if, but when. Over the last 25 years in Orange County alone, we've seen our share of wildfires. We've lost well over 500 structures, and that includes the freeway complex fire, the coastal fire. Most recent, I think, was the airport fire. In Mission Viejo, there's 34,000 housing units, and 96% of those were built before 2008. And so why is that important? And, homes built before 2008 are the weakest link in terms of wildfire and fire risk. Those were built before Chapter 7A of the Building Code, And for those of you that are familiar with that, I'll talk a little bit about it. But it was put into place to try to make homes safer during wildfire events. These are homes that may be surrounded heavily by landscape. They have few defenses for ember protection, which is one of the most dangerous things out there. And I know the fire department's here, so I'm going to try not to go too far into it. But homes built before 2008 are 16 times more likely to burn than those built under today's codes. We have an insurance crisis, and one of the challenges is that the insurers, they see risk, and they don't always recognize mitigation. Builders, homeowners, we're often punished when the communities themselves are, not well defensed or not built with the defense that we have today. And so, if you own a home today, it was built before 2008, your insurance rates are likely extremely high. And while, we can't fix that, there are things that we can do. So a little bit about what's changed. Like I said, 2008 was a milestone in the way we build homes. It changed everything from adding Class A roofs, non-combustible siding, ember-resistant vents, tempered windows, and a number of other things. And what these homes were designed to do is survive flying embers and radiant heat. They're not impenetrable, but they certainly are a lot safer. In addition to that, you see modern site planning that includes defensible space. These are zones from 0 to 5 feet, 5 to 30 feet, and 30 to 100 feet. And again, I won't get into too much detail here, other than to say that, if there's something next to your house that can burn and you're near a fire zone, I would suggest maybe taking a look at that as part of hardening. In addition to all that, we now build multiple access routes, additional fire hydrants, evacuation plans, and extremely big fire buffers. These layouts have ensured over time that homes built in these communities don't burn during wildfire events. In addition to all that, the data now that we have some really unique and really detailed fire modeling software that can tell us where fire is going to go. It's going to predict how it's going to spread, how it's going to enter into communities, and then we can design against those fires and do that through a whole host of things, including fuel management. But what hasn't changed and what needs to change is that many communities still have been built with old, outdated codes. Imagine driving around in a car built in the 1970s. It's not safe. It's big, it's bulky, and, we don't see a lot of those for a whole host of reasons. But our homes still exist the way that they exist. And fire doesn't care. It just doesn't care. Ember storms, they don't stop at the city boundaries. They don't stop at your HOA line. They don't stop until they hit something or they're extinguished. And without mitigation, one home will ignite another home, which will ignite another home, and create that structure-to-structure fire spread that's real. We saw it in the Palisades fire, and again, it's only a matter of time, not when, not if, but when. So if you live in a 2008, pre-2008 home, there's some really simple things you can do. They're not necessarily cheap, but they are meaningful. Hardening your home, what does that mean? Adding combustible vents. Very simple to change those out, and if you do that, it makes a big difference in wildfires occurring up in your attic space, in confined spaces where you can't see it. If your home was built back then, you likely don't have any fire sprinklers. Again, the new stuff has that. Tempered glass, if you're replacing your windows, get the tempered glass. It's worth the upgrade. Clear vegetation around your house. 0 to 5 feet is what's recommended. It will be required, I believe, next year is the new code. And this 0 to 5 feet is one of the most critical spaces around your house. That includes fencing. So if you've got a wood fence separating your house from your neighbor, and the return, which is that piece that goes from the wall to the house, that's wood, I would suggest changing that as soon as possible. Again, it only takes a few embers to ignite those fences, which then ignite the homes, and then, they're gone. So lastly, talk to your neighbors. Fire protection works best when it's done at a block level. It still works when it's done one by one, but it works a lot better with coordinated work and with, the whole block buy-in if possible. So if you're a community leader, if you're an HOA association, push for dynamic wildfire protection plans. These likely end up in binders in some HOAs, and others they're taking more active, proactive measures. Rancho Mission Viejo does it, and every 5 years they're updating those plans with the new codes and the new requirements. Support defensible space enforcement, education, as well as fuel management in your communities. These are all really, really important steps. And I think, one closing thought I'd have is that we fixed cars by treating safety like a system and not as a feature. It's time we treat wildfire risk the same way, which we are doing in the new communities, but we need to catch up in built communities. Because in high-risk areas, you're only as safe as your most flammable neighbor. We've got the data. We have now seen modern homes built with these wildfire standards that survive when the other ones don't. These are not just better homes, but they're the difference between rebuilding and, as the mayor said, coming back to your home when the fire event has happened. So with that, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to be here. I look forward to answering some questions.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to take just a quick break here to say, if you have a seat next to you right now, could you please raise your hand? And if you're able, please, if you can scoot in, great. But the people that have their hands raised, there's seats available for you. Thank you for doing that. Keep them up, keep them up, keep them up. Thank you, everybody. Okay, our next speaker is representing the insurance industry, and Jamie Hackwith with Prendeville Insurance, not to be confused with our state insurance commissioner's office is following you. So if you could give us an introduction, and I happen to know that Jamie has a lot of experience not only in home insurance, but also in the HOA world. So I have seen him around doing things in the HOA world for many, many years. So we're lucky to have him here tonight. So thank you for being here for Patrick. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me? Okay. I sometimes talk too loud, and with a microphone in front of me, I just don't want to scare you. So I'm Jamie Hackwith, and as Wendy said, I'm an insurance agent broker with Prendeville Insurance Agency. Since 1988, we've served the Saddleback Valley. A little bit about myself. Before entering the insurance industry, I spent about 21 years on the HOA side as an HOA manager. So I have a lot of background in that. I have a lot of participation with CAI, which is the Community Associations Institute. I served as former chapter president, a role that Wendy also served. And so that's my background. So I really appreciate you guys allowing me to speak tonight about something that's affecting a lot of Californians, and that's our state's current insurance crisis. If you've tried to renew your homeowner's insurance lately, or you've helped a family member with their coverage, you've probably felt the impact. We've seen devastating wildfires in recent years, including the Camp Fire in Paradise, the Santa Rosa fires, and most recently, the wildfires near Los Angeles. These fires have pushed parts of the insurance market into crisis. So what's going on? Well, due to increased wildfire frequency and severity, many of the major insurance carriers have either stopped writing new policies, pulled out of California entirely, or are drastically tightening their guidelines. For example, State Farm, California's largest insurance home insurer, not only paused new policies, but they also recently requested a significant increase in their rates. Insurance Commissioner Laura recently announced that State Farm can increase their rates by an average of 17% for homeowners, 15% for renters and condominiums, and a whopping 38% for rental dwellings. That's effective June 1st. Additionally, Allstate recently received approval for a 34% increase on existing homeowner policies, which I believe is the largest increase approved in the last 3 years in California. While Farmers Insurance never left the state, they now cap how many new policies they'll write each month. Others, like Travelers, Safeco, Chubb, have significantly reduced their presence while Tokyo Marine have exited the homeowners insurance market in California entirely. For companies that remain, they have dramatically increased their underwriting practices for qualifications. So why is this happening? Well, in simple terms, claims are outpacing premiums. Aggravating the situation is the overly burdensome rules that insurance companies must now follow when making rate changes, a fact that even Commissioner Laura and Governor Newsom recognize. Since Prop 103 passed, a carrier requesting a rate change can sometimes wait months or years for approval. When the numbers don't add up, carriers stop taking new customers, or they start issuing non-renewal notices to existing ones. And when that happens, many homeowners end up turning to California's insurer of last resort, and that would be the California FAIR Plan. So what is the FAIR Plan? Well, it is not a government program. It's actually a pool that every admitted carrier in California pays into. It was created in the late 60s to make sure that basic fire insurance was available to everyone. But I need to be clear, the FAIR Plan is a bare bones coverage. It usually covers what's referred to as basic form policy, which is basically fire. It doesn't include water damage, it doesn't include theft or other common perils. Most homeowners need a second policy, which is called a RAP, or a difference in conditions, or a DIC policy, in order to become fully protected. All right, so there's a $3 million replacement value cap on FAIR Plan coverage, and that's probably plenty for most homes, but in some coastal and hillside communities, it may not be enough. Now, as a side note, you may have heard in the media, they use the term market value replacement. That's actually not correct. Replacement value refers to how much it costs to actually build your home and is not what your home is worth, what it would sell for. Okay. In the last 3 years, the FAIR Plan has more than doubled its exposure, all the while admitting that their financial abilities were limited. In fact, recently, after the LA fires, the FAIR Plan issued a $1 billion assessment to cover all the claims. Insurers across the state are now being asked to pay their share, and some of them have already announced that they'll be passing those costs directly to the consumer through surcharges. The Department of Insurance has given carriers authorization to bill back their clients up to 50% of their portion of the assessment. And remember, the FAIR Plan is made up of the admitted carriers, and it's kind of based on their market share. So that's going to have an effect on how much of a surcharge they apply to their customers. Okay, now let's switch gears for a second and talk about something that I know a lot about, and that's HOAs. Since Mission Viejo has a large number of community associations, it's important to understand how HOA insurance differs from others. HOA master policies fall under the commercial market, not the personal lines. Now, that's an important distinction that matters because any legislative relief that targets homeowners doesn't necessarily apply to HOAs. These HOAs are facing their own crisis. Many HOAs have seen steep hikes. Others are being non-renewed and are finding it very hard to find replacement coverage, especially with full limits. Some associations can't even insure for full replacement value of their buildings, which then becomes a financing issue because if the HOA's insurance doesn't meet Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac requirements, it can block loans or refinancing for owners. The list of carriers willing to write HOA policies in California was already small, and now it's becoming smaller. Recently, the FAIR Plan announced that it will begin offering coverage for larger associations, raising the eligibility cap to $20 million per building with a maximum of $100 million in total replacement costs per location. While that's a welcome change, it raises new concerns about assessments after the next major fire. The more risk the FAIR Plan takes on, the more potential costs get pushed back onto the insurers and then ultimately onto the policyholders. So yes, it's helpful, but it's also important to remind ourselves that we're still in crisis mode, and we need more private market participation, not less. Okay, so now you've probably heard about CAL FIRE's updated fire hazard severity zone maps. All right. These maps are used in real estate transactions to determine what sellers must disclose, especially around defensible space and vegetation management. If the property is in a high or very high hazard zone, sellers must provide proof of what's called a defensible space inspection. These maps often get confused with risk maps. Here's the difference. Hazard maps show the potential for severe fire behavior in an area based on terrain, vegetation, and climate, but they don't factor how a specific home is built or whether it has been hardened for wildfire. Important to note that insurance companies, the carriers, they don't rely on these state maps. They use their own proprietary maps, or they use other maps like those offered through CoreLogic, as the risk meter, or Verisk. These maps evaluate down to a specific address. And, that's where we have something what we're calling map shopping. It's where independent agents now routinely check multiple risk models to find the most favorable rating for a property. One carrier might deny you coverage if your risk score is above a 3, whereas another one will accept you up to a 12. That variation is huge, making it more important than ever to shop and find the best fit for you. So what can homeowners and renters do? Well, if your current carrier is still willing to offer renewal terms, your best bet might be to stay with them, especially if the price is competitive. Many carriers are limiting new business, but they're continuing to renew existing customers who meet their updated guidelines. That said, you won't know in advance if your policy is going to be non-renewed. In California, insurers are only required to give 75 days notice, so while you don't necessarily need to start shopping 90 to 100 days out, you should start reviewing your coverage around that time. This means checking your limits, confirming your discounts, and understanding your options just in case. Also consider bundling your homeowners and auto policies with the same carrier. This doesn't just help with the pricing, but it also may improve your eligibility for renewal, since many carriers prefer to retain package customers over single policy holders. And if you do have to switch carriers, it helps to know your property scores in various wildfire risk models. That's where your agent can come in handy. Ask them to check with more than one company. A home with one insurer, they might consider you more high risk or too high risk, while another one might consider you acceptable, depending on the map they use. And make sure your policy matches your living situation. Homeowners generally need an HO3 policy, whereas condo owners should carry an HO6 policy that complements the HOA's master policy. For renters, you'll need an HO4 policy to protect your personal belongings and cover hotel costs if you're displaced. Finally, review your limits regularly. Construction costs, hotel prices, and personal property values shift fast in California. Make sure you're not underinsured, especially when it comes to rebuilding and temporary living expenses. Now, so here's something else to keep in mind. Loss prevention matters even more than now, or ever, excuse me. If your insurance company sends you a letter asking you to trim your trees, clear brush, or make a fire safety repair, take it seriously. Don't ignore it. That's unfortunately a problem that we've been finding recently in the HOA industry. Is we get those loss control recommendations, we send them to the insured, and they treat those as they're called recommendations, but they're not really recommendations anymore, not unless you want to keep your coverage. If you need more time, or for whatever reason you can't comply, it's important to communicate. Talk to your agent, because ignoring those requests could jeopardize your coverage. Avoiding claims is also important. That might mean replacing old rubber washing machine hoses with braided steel, servicing your water heater, cleaning out your dryer vents, and trimming back any trees located near your roof. These are some of the small things that you can do to limit your risk. If you are in an HOA, get involved. Rising premiums can trigger special assessments. That's always fun. Or possibly lead to reduced master policy limits that shift more responsibility to you, the individual homeowner. If you're a renter, talk to your landlord and make sure that the building policy is up to date, because you don't want to be surprised if you do have a claim. All right, so here's the bottom line. The insurance market is changing. Rates are rising. The options are shrinking, but you're not completely powerless. Ask questions, stay informed, avoid unnecessary claims, and don't be afraid to shop around or work with an independent agent who understands the wildfire risk landscape. Because in today's insurance market, being proactive isn't just helpful, it's essential. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, next up we have our California Department of Insurance representative, Andrea Valdez, and I understand Lisa Strange is also participating. Thank you. And please, Andrea, that's you. I see you. Go ahead and take it away, please, and give us a brief bio if you would be so kind.
Of course. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen with you all. So just give me one moment. Okay, perfect. Let me know if we see that.
We see it.
Perfect. So my name is Andrea Valdez, and I'm with the California Department of Insurance. I am an outreach analyst. I cover the coastal communities up here in San Luis Obispo, and then I also have my supervisor on with me for questions after. She is our NorCal supervisor, Lisa Strange. So, and I've been with the department since June of 2022 and with the state for longer than that. So excited to be here tonight. Thank you for having me. And again, this is a wildfire insurance webinar. So before we dive in to what the department is doing, it's going to be first important to understand like how we got here in the insurance marketplace. So we know insurance companies are leaving the state. More policyholders are turning to the FAIR Plan. Policy cancellations are on the rise, but these actions are not arbitrary. They reflect the financial and risk-based challenges that insurers are facing. Now, none of this happened overnight, and several key factors are driving these changes. We have the increasing severity and frequency of natural disasters, as well as global inflation, and that's putting the stress on the insurance industry nationwide, and that's just not here in California. The cost of rebuilding homes and businesses, it's surged with rising prices for materials, labor shortages, and supply chain disruptions. Reinsurance, now that's insurance for insurance companies, is becoming harder to obtain and more expensive as catastrophic events increase worldwide. As risks grow, the insurance market is contracting to protect financial stability. Unlike public utilities, insurance companies are not legally required to offer coverage unless they can fully meet all claims, cover their expenses, and earn a fair return. But the primary regulatory framework for the insurance in California, Proposition 103, was passed in 1988. Since then, the landscape has changed dramatically, but the regulatory system has not kept pace. Recognizing this, Commissioner Lara has taken steps to modernize these outdated regulations to create a more resilient insurance market. And that's going to bring us to the Sustainable Insurance Strategy. You also hear me refer to it as SIS. Now, due to the pressing challenges facing the insurance market, Commissioner Lara, with the support of the governor's executive order, announced SIS back in September of 2023. This initiative introduces a series of regulatory reforms aimed at increasing the availability of insurance for Californians, creating a more resilient insurance market, protecting communities from the growing risks of climate change. Now, the key initiatives under the strategy include, first, streamlining and improving the department's rate application approval process to reduce delays and ensure that insurers can adjust to the changing market conditions more efficiently. Second, introducing new risk management tools in rate making, such as catastrophe modeling, and the incorporation of reinsurance costs. These tools will allow insurers to assess risks more accurately and account for wildfire mitigation efforts. Finally, increasing the availability of insurance in wildfire distressed areas by requiring insurers to write more policies in high-risk zones. The department aims to reverse the growing reliance on the FAIR Plan and close that insurance gap, ensuring that more Californians have access to traditional insurance options. Now, if any of this seems a little bit unclear, don't worry, I'm going to be diving into each of these actions in more detail. So I know a lot of this is very highly detailed, but to truly understand what's happening in the insurance marketplace and how the department is addressing this crisis, we have to start with these fundamentals. So that means outlining the regulations and frameworks that govern how the Department of Insurance operates. Now, at the core of these regulations is Prop 103, and that requires the department to review and approve insurers' rate changes before they can be implemented. This rate review process ensures that proposed premiums are fair, adequate, and not excessive. So, for example, if an insurance company like Travelers wants to raise rates by 80%, it must submit a rate application to the department for approval. Under Prop 103, the department is required to complete this review within 180 days. But in reality, this almost never happens. Some rate reviews have taken over a year to be approved, and that's due to a lot of factors that are causing these delays. Insurers can often submit incomplete applications. That's leading to a lot of back and forth exchanges, and that can take months. Outdated technology and staffing limitations have slowed the process. So the department has been hiring additional staff and developing new tools to assist to address these challenges. Additionally, California's unique process allows consumers and consumer advocacy groups to challenge insurance rate increases. Anyone can log into the department's website and dispute an insurer's rate filing, even if they believe it is excessive. If successful, interveners can recover their legal fees from the insurer, and no other state has this process. It is entirely unique to Prop 103. Now, while the intervener process gives consumers a voice and increases transparency and consumer protection, it also contributes to a delay in rate approvals as insurers and interveners engage in lengthy legal negotiations. Now, to work around these delays, insurers have been strategically requesting rate increases of only 6.9%, just below that 7% threshold that would trigger a public hearing. While this allows insurers to avoid those extended delays, it has created an inefficient process where multiple smaller rate increases are filed over time instead of a single necessary adjustment. So what does it mean? Why does it matter that reviews take a long time? If rate adjustments are delayed and lag behind rising costs, especially as climate-related catastrophes become more frequent and more severe, insurers face financial instability, forcing some to leave the market, like we've seen, or withdraw from high-risk areas. Without timely rate approvals, homeowners are left with fewer options and may be forced into inexpensive last resort coverage, like we've heard, like the FAIR Plan, which is a trend that we've seen, and we have to reverse that. Through the SIS, the department is addressing these challenges by working to streamline the rate review process while maintaining strong consumer protection. Rate reviews need to happen in a timely manner so insurers can accurately price risk and continue offering more coverage to consumers. So like I stated before, we're hiring additional staff, we're improving technology, we're increasing transparency and ensuring insurers submit complete applications up front. The goal is to balance consumer protection and transparency that's legally mandated under Prop 103, allowing insurers to make necessary adjustments to keep coverage available. So the next element of the SIS directly addresses the climate crisis. So until last month, insurance companies in California were required to use only historical losses to set rates. And this outdated the approach, which created two major issues. First, past losses, which do not accurately reflect the increasing risks insurers face today, particularly with climate change driving more frequent and severe natural disasters. Second, this method failed to recognize parcel-level and community-wide mitigation efforts, meaning homeowners and communities investing in wildfire prevention were not seeing the benefits truly reflected in these insurance rates. To address these challenges, new regulations were finalized in December, allowing insurers to utilize forward-looking catastrophe models that prioritize wildfire safety, mitigation, and transparency. Effectively addressing climate change requires modern risk assessment strategies that ensure insurance remains available while still encouraging proactive wildfire risk reduction. Insurance companies are required to use forward-looking models that recognize the clear benefits of investments made by the governor, legislator, and homeowners in wildfire safety, including home hardening, fuel reduction, and prescribed fire. By incorporating both future risk projections and mitigation efforts, these models create a fairer and more accurate system that rewards policyholders for reducing risk, helps stabilize the market, and ensures continued insurance available in high-risk areas. So it's important to note we're not reinventing the wheel here. Most other states already allow private catastrophe models in rate making, but because of Prop 103 in California, California must comply to the public transparency before implementing such regulatory changes. So what's next for insurance and rate making? So the commissioner has submitted a regulatory change allowing insurers to include California only reinsurance costs in rate making. Reinsurance is a critical tool that helps insurers manage climate risks and continue writing policies, especially in those high-risk areas. This change ensures that Californians will not be paying for disasters in other states, such as hurricanes, floods, or fires outside of California. Additionally, insurers must commit to writing more policies in distressed areas before they're allowed to incorporate these California-specific reinsurance costs into their rates. It's important to emphasize this isn't a novel concept. Most states, again, are already allowing insurers to account for reinsurance costs in their rate settling process. However, due to Prop 103, California has historically been different. But again, underscoring that reinsurance costs need to be California specific. We don't need Californians paying for catastrophes all around the globe. So what's next for SIS? Catastrophe models are now being submitted for review. Insurance companies will need to submit complete rate applications to use these catastrophe models and incorporate reinsurance. And insurance companies are expected to have new policies available soon. So just switching gears a little bit, what the department is doing now for you to be prepared for disasters pertaining to insurance. In the event of emergency, and I'm sure they'll probably go over this a little bit after, always follow those evacuation orders from local authorities to keep yourself and your family safe. Another thing that I do talk about a lot when I go to these, wildfire resource fairs and everything, is creating photo or video inventory of your possessions to process a contents claim. Insurers need to know what items you own. So this is going to include clothing, furniture, electronics, kitchenware, and any other valuables. I know documenting everything, that's going to seem completely overwhelming, but trust me, you're going to want to do this, especially if you were to have a loss. You're going to want to take videos of your home, open the cupboards, open the cabinets. I know a lot of people will say, well, I just took a video of my home. Well, did you open up what was inside your jewelry drawer, anything like that? So there is a home inventory app from the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, the NAIC. And so you can look up that home inventory app. It will take you room by room to a document and also gives the ability to scan barcodes and upload photos, and so that everything is in one place. And another crucial part of disaster preparedness as it pertains to your insurance is making sure you have enough coverage. The worst time to find out you're underinsured is after a disaster. So reports have indicated that 8 out of 10 homeowners are underinsured. So simply put, if you have a total loss, you won't have enough money to rebuild your home. Just imagine if you've been paying your premiums every year for 20 years without a question and find out you don't have enough money, you don't have enough to rebuild. So the first part is knowing if you have enough coverage. Another part is, do I have the right coverage? Being in Southern California, most of our concerns are wildfire and earthquakes. But the rains that happened in San Diego, this was about 2 years ago, it was less than 2% of California homeowners had flood coverage. Now, we don't sell insurance. I'm not telling you to go out and get flood insurance, but it's really going to depend on independent factors, where your home is located, and such are these parts of these not so fun homeownership that you don't know about until it's too late. When I went down to the assistance center in San Diego, I think we saw 80 people in a day, and only one person had flood coverage for those that flooding that went down. So let's take some look at the reasons why you could be underinsured. One thing, I really want you to take away from this town hall today is that rebuilding costs is not the home selling price. If a disaster were to happen, you have to rebuild your home. You have to think about the new regulations, the building codes that have been put in place since your home has been built. Just for an example, interior sprinklers are now required in new builds. Those upgrades can easily add 35 to 50% to the cost. Permits themselves had tripled across cities. Also, following a disaster where large areas are affected, construction costs skyrocket due to lack of construction crews, materials, inspectors, etc. So you need to know if your policy is a replacement cost value policy, or if you have an actual cash value policy. If it's a cash value policy, it will not cover a rebuild. If you have a replacement cost value policy, that's a lot of words, some types of replacement cost policies will pay your policy limits, but a certain percentage above those limits. But just don't think because you have a replacement cost policy, you're good. You'll never have to think of it again. No, that's because your replacement cost value policy every year when you renew. It might have cost $600K to rebuild your home when you first bought it, and it's going to maybe cost 3 times that now. So ask yourself again, do I have enough coverage to rebuild? If you don't know the answer, I was just talking to your agent. And another thing I would like to discuss, and not a lot of people know that insurance companies assign a risk score to your home or business. The Safer from Wildfires regulation, this was passed by the commissioner in 2019, and that requires insurance companies to give you a wildfire risk score for your property. And they have to tell you how that risk score was created and what factors went into that score. So the wildfire risk score classification must be provided to you at the following times. And that's going to be when you apply for a new policy within 15 days. Before you renew a new policy, that's within 45 days. Before you are non-renewed, and that's at least 75 days. When you complete mitigation on your property and request a revised score, and that's within 30 days. And also another thing that most don't know is you have the right to appeal your score. So if you're not satisfied with the response, the Department of Insurance is here to help you with that. So what are some steps you can take if you can't find insurance, which is the case for many Californians, I do know. So if you get a non-renewal notice, contact your insurer and ask if there are any specific actions you could take to mitigate your risk and retain your coverage. Ask for your risk score if it wasn't provided. And again, in California, your insurer must give a minimum of 75 days before your policy expires. If you think your non-renewal was unfair, you may file a complaint with us. Many times we're able to get that non-renewal reversed if the insurance company didn't give you enough notice. You may try obtaining the surplus lines coverage in the surplus lines market, and surplus lines are non-admitted insurers. Now, surplus lines insurers are not backed by the California Insurance Guarantee Association, so there aren't as many protections for your claims under our department because they're not licensed by our state. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be considered, but it's definitely worthwhile to note. And then we do have more tips on our website for finding insurance, the top 10 tips, and you can also call us during business hours. Another thing I do want to touch on, if you've exhausted all your options and you cannot obtain coverage in the traditional insurance marketplace, there is the FAIR Plan, and it may be a temporary solution for standard fire insurance. Now, again, I know the California FAIR Plan is the insurer of last resort. The FAIR Plan is not a state agency, nor is it a public entity. There is no public or taxpayer funding. It's a fire insurance pool comprised of all insurers licensed to conduct property casualty business in California. It's a named peril policy, so it's only going to cover fire, lightning, internal explosion, or smoke damage. Fair plan coverage is limited, $3 million for all coverages combined. For structure, contents, additional living expenses. If you have a fair plan fire policy, then you would consider purchasing a DIC policy, a second companion policy to cover other hazards such as water damage and theft, making it a comprehensive homeowners policy. Now, with the SIS sustainable insurance strategy, the department is continuing to modernize the FAIR plan, more yet temporary comprehensive coverage with new $20 million commercial coverage per structure, with overall limit of $100 million for larger HOAs, housing developers, and larger businesses. This closes gaps for those who have been having a hard time finding coverage. And it's also necessary protections have been added for the FAIR plan and participating admitted market insurers, as well as increased public reporting for accountability. So any insurance issues, we are open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and that is our number there, that 1-800-927-4357. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate all of that information. I do have a question. Is that slide deck potentially, can it be made available?
My slides available?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
There's great information on there. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, next up, we have Division Chief Shane Mull with the Orange County Fire Authority.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem and Mr. Mayor, for having me here. Shane Mull, Orange County Fire Authority. I'm Division Chief here with the Fire Department. I cover Division 3, which is all the south end of the county. Been a firefighter for 21 years, so throughout that time, I've been on many of these wildfires. So I'm going to try to help you along and kind of understand what to do to prepare for these and that kind of things. I also want to introduce, in the back, we have Nick Piveroff and Ryan Alloy. They're two of our assistant fire marshals. They have a booth back there with some information, which looking at the size of the crowd, we probably ran out of. But I believe there is a QR code that you can get all the information, takes you to our website as well, and some other things, and they'll be here to answer questions as well. As mentioned, you guys are well aware, living here in Southern California, that fire season is pretty much a year-round thing now. It used to be a period of the year, but now it seems to be year-round. Right now, you look out in the hills, and the hills are green, but they are drying out pretty quickly. The relative humidities are going to drop over these next couple of days, so things are starting to dry out, so we need to be ready. There's already been fires up in Northern California, one out last week out in Murrieta area, so things are burning, and they're burning at pretty good rates. So we need to be prepared, you and us. Been a lot of kind of hard news, I think, so far, so I do want to let you know that the OCFA is prepared, and I kind of want to go over, just for your peace of mind, what we do to prepare for these fires. Just daily staffing. We have obviously all of our fire stations and fire engines are staffed on a daily basis. We do not ever leave a station unstaffed. We also have pre-designated strike teams, which are engines and a battalion chief throughout the county that are pre-designated to go fight these fires when they do break out, staffed every single day. We also have our hand crew program and our dozers staffed daily. Our dispatch center is constantly staffed, and we get about over 500 calls a day. We also have the regional support, right? We're in Southern California, so other agencies around are always quick to come support us when we do have these fires, just like we do throughout the state as well. And we also have, with our air operations program, you probably saw them on the airport fire, maybe you've seen it on the news. We do have two brand new Firehawk, Black Hawk helicopters, essentially, that drop 1,000 gallons. Those are staffed daily as well. So daily we are prepared, even on a day like today when it's not windy and things like that, for any kind of these fires that do break out to protect your homes. When we do have weather events, whether it be the red flag events, you guys all know it's the Santa Ana winds that cause some major problems, and you guys have seen that throughout the news, and you've seen it locally as well. We do staff up additional fire engines. We set them up as strike teams, which is 5 engines and a battalion chief in different areas within the county, and those are on top of what's normally staffed in the fire station. So those are deployed and ready to go to any fires that we get. We staff both of our hand crews. We have 2 full hand crews, Type 1 hand crews, so we staff both of those. All of our helicopters end up being staffed so that we can jump on a fire quickly and put it out, as well as we staff up our Department Operations Center and things like that to support any incidents that happen within the county. just to show the proof of concept. In January, during obviously the LA firestorms, I don't know how many people heard, but we actually had 4 fires start here in Orange County. You guys know it was just as windy here as it was there, maybe a little bit less, but it was windy. It was very windy, but we did have 4 fires start in Orange County that not many people heard about, fortunately, because we had those strike teams and those extra resources staged throughout the county. One of them actually was right here in Mission Viejo, right by Arroyo Chibuco Golf Course. And one of our strike teams actually happened to be just down the street, and they were the first ones there. So you had 5 engines and a battalion chief pulling on scene when that thing was small and got it before it got to the homes. So we are prepared. We are ready for when fires do break out, and it's not if, it's when, as mentioned before. And Eric mentioned a lot of stuff that I was going to kind of go through, so I'll brush through it. But really, the information you can get in the back is where you can take this stuff home and really take it to heart. Because as much as we're prepared as your fire department, we really, really, really need you guys as the homeowners, as people who own homes in the city, to do your part as well so that we can all be ready. So some big things. We have a Ready, Set, Go program that we utilize. It's in the back, but that's just a simple way to remember. First thing you want to make sure is your home is ready. You want good defensible space around your home. We talked about that. There's different varying stages, but you kind of want to keep 100 feet of defensible space around your home. Fuel modifications, which are the plants that they plant around newer communities. A lot of your HOAs have fuel modifications. Our team works with them to make sure that the plants that are in those fuel modifications are approved, the plants that won't burn as fast or as easy. The whole point of the defensible space and the fuel modifications is to give a good buffer when a fire is coming so it doesn't directly hit your neighborhoods quickly. So you want to make sure you have that. Obviously, too, you want to make sure you have that immediate zone. We talked about that, and I believe it's going into regulation as well. But the immediate zone is that 5 feet around your home. It's important that there's no combustible materials within 5 feet of your home. We all know that the side of the house ends up being somewhat of a storage area at times. For a bunch of stuff, old trash, things like that. Unfortunately, I've seen it time and time again on these fires. Fire blows through, the fire department moves on to the next neighborhood, but an ember got into something that was combustible next to somebody's house, and it's highly unfortunate when we come back and find a house that burned down because of that. So whatever you can do, keep combustible materials away from the side of your home. Stay away from mulch and things like that, the wood mulch. Keep your vegetation away from your structure as much as you can, especially the dead and dying vegetation. Let's see, safer alternatives, make sure you have hardscaping. They mentioned the fencing. If you have a wood fence, replace that wood fence where it comes up to your house because the wood fence will catch fire. Most of the homes that burn down in these fires, it's not from direct fire impact on the homes. It's those embers, those little blowing embers, little firebrands blowing through the air, and as you saw in Altadena and Palisades, thank you, and Palisades, that is how blocks and blocks of homes burn. Obviously, the brush stops, but those embers that are blowing through the air get into little spaces within your house or the combustible material next to your house, and that is what truly lights your home on fire. So we need to make sure our homes are ready no matter how close to the brush we are. There are a lot of things you can do to harden your home. As was mentioned by Eric, he mentioned a lot of really, really good things for hardening your home. Essentially, hardening your home is truly just protecting your home so that those embers cannot get in there. And there's a bunch of things you can do. Make sure you have a good Class A roof, closing off your attic vents or getting the mesh behind your attic vents. Most of our homes, I have a home in Mission Viejo as well, we're built with attic vents with mesh that's probably a 1/4 inch. If you replace that, this is one of the cheaper things you can do. You replace it with the 1/8 inch mesh. You can get it from Home Depot. It's cheap. Tack it up in there, and that should stop a lot of the firebrands from getting into your attic and still allowing ventilation through your attic, which is important. Make sure you have the hardscaping around the 5 feet around your home. The windows were mentioned. Non-combustible siding, don't have that wood old siding. Some of these things are pricey, I know, but they really do, and I've seen it over time and time again. They do make a huge difference. Homes will burn, and somehow a home will survive. We saw it in the coastal fire. We see them on all the fires, essentially. The people who do a good job of having good defensible space around their home and their homes are hardened, they do survive. So, again, there's a lot of home hardening that you can do. One thing I'll recommend, and there is a QR code in the back, is OCFA provides a free service to anybody within Orange County, so all of you can do it. you click that QR code, or you can go on the website and request a free home assessment. And one of these fire marshals will come out, and they'll walk your whole property with you with a checklist and show you everything that you can do. And by the end of it, you walk away. Like I said, it's free. You just walk away with a piece of paper, nice little to-do list, which is so fun, but a nice to-do list of things that you can do to harden your home. And it's a really, really great service. I would highly recommend it. At least you can start categorizing what can we pull off now and what do we need to push down in the future, but it'll let you know where you can increase your chances should a fire come. So obviously you do what you can to protect your home, but then it's time to prepare also. Obviously you want to, the set is being prepared and having a plan. Make sure you know what your escape plan is. Make sure you know where you and your family are going to go and meet up, and stick to that plan when you do evacuate. Have all those plans in place before. We also, you know, you want to make sure you have all your emergency supplies. We have the 6 Ps, so obviously people and pets, as was mentioned, is very important. Any important documents, things like that, those are the important things you want to grab. Prescriptions, so many people forget their prescriptions, but as we all know, we need our prescriptions, and during massive tragedies, it's hard sometimes to refill those. So your prescriptions, any pictures or personal computers, those are big to bring as well. And then plastics, which would be your credit cards, and obviously cash if you have it as well. So make sure you have all that equipment. Some people that are right up against the brush have go bags already at all times, but if you don't know where you're going to get those things, have a plan with your family on how you're going to quickly get them. For your home outside, you can do a few things. If you know there's a fire burning and the winds are blowing and you know you're probably going to have to leave, if you can leave your home in a really good state, that's also something that we highly recommend. If you have furniture or combustible materials, like I said, that are up against your structure, move them away from the structure. If you have furniture out on the backyard, near the pool or anything like that, move that as far away from the home as you can. Put it in your pool if you really think things are going to be impacted. But those are the things that catch fire and unfortunately start sending fire up into the homes. So move anything you can away from the home. Turn your vehicles around so that when they tell you to go or you decide it's time to go, you're not having to back out through difficult times. Inside your house, too, make sure all your windows are shut. And if you can, move furniture away from the windows and doors. If you have drapes that are hanging off your windows, take those down and move those from the windows, because believe it or not, when the fire comes or the house next door lights on fire, that heat can get anything inside your rooms, even through the windows, to catch fire as well. Obviously, getting the better windows protects from that a little bit, but those are some things you can do inside too. Also, turn all your water off. I know a lot of people want to leave their water running, leave sprinklers, things like that going. We say turn your sprinklers off, let the fire department come in and utilize the water within the system to protect your homes. Know that when you do leave, it doesn't mean that your house is just sitting there hoping for the best. The fire department is constantly monitoring the streets. You may see all of them in one neighborhood at one moment of time. That is because we can read from the topography and the way the fire is going, weather patterns, all the technology pretty much tells us where the fires are going. So we may be really focused there, but there's always somebody roving the other neighborhoods to see, is anybody going to be impacted? Is there something smoldering on the side of somebody's house? We can pull a fire engine over and put it out. So just because you leave doesn't mean your house is just there all by itself, but whatever you can do to prepare it beforehand and when you're leaving is key. And then obviously the last part of the Ready, Set, Go program is go. I'd highly recommend leaving before you're told. You know that feeling that you get when you go, this feels uncomfortable. That's time to get your stuff up and go. You don't want to wait until it's too late. If any of you ever have driven through a fire, I will say there are times when we're on fires, when you're driving down the street and the fire's there or the smoke is close, you cannot see, and it is a scary, scary thing for anyone, scary for the fire department, honestly, driving down those streets. And the last thing we need is cars zipping out of that neighborhood as fire engines are coming in to try and protect your homes. It happens on every fire, but I'd highly recommend, leave early and make sure that you're ready. Follow your exit patterns. The sheriff's department and the city, I believe, post, your evacuation routes out of your neighborhood. We know those as well, and that way we know which ways we can come in where most of the traffic's not going to be going. So it's really important that you follow your routes, and I believe Captain Ivan's going to talk about some of the stuff to do with them. Obviously, take your emergency kits. I'm doing good. utilize your practice escape routes. Just don't become part of the problem, right? If we get stuck in the fires in our cars, that's a horrible, horrible moment. So make sure you're following all the different social media sites. If you don't have Alert OC, get Alert OC. It will let you know when it's time to go, when your neighborhood's up for an evacuation. So follow all those things, listen to them, heed them, but truly just know that, you know, at the OCFA, we are here to support you. We're here to come look at your homes now. We are prepared for when there are fires, and we're doing everything we can to keep them out of the neighborhoods. But as you saw in the, you know, Altadena and Pacific Palisades, I almost forgot again. Pacific Palisades, right? It's not the homes just right up against the brush. It's everybody that needs to be protected. So do what you can to protect yourselves, and please take advantage of the information we have in the back. And with that, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay, great information, and we have certainly, last but not least, our very own Captain Ivins, who's going to talk about all the public safety aspects of this. So thank you.
One more time. There, oh, green. There you go.
There we go. Can you hear me? All right, that's better. So I have a slide deck we're gonna play. You can follow along with, but leading up to that, my name's Captain Ivins, Jason Ivins, with the Orange County Sheriff's Department. I oversee police services here in the city of Mission Viejo. I'm a 26-year veteran of the Sheriff's Department, and I was basically boots on the ground during the Freeway Complex fire and the Silverado Canyon fires back in 07 and 08, and I was doing evacuations house by house through those neighborhoods. So I have a lot of experience in evacuations, both small and large scale. So I'm going to cover a little bit about evacuations and disaster preparedness. So if we can go to the next slide. So the Sheriff's Department is the lead agency on emergency preparedness and disaster response here in Orange County. We follow a standardized framework set by the federal government under our incident command system, standardized emergency management system, and the national incident management system. Next slide. So some resources we have available to you, there are a lot of them are kind of overlapping, but through the Orange County Sheriff's Department website, if you follow all the way down to the emergency management tab, we have a lot of resources as far as what you need to bring with you, how to do evacuations, how to follow what you're going to hear from the deputies when they're in your neighborhood. But also, a lot of those resources are on the city website and on the Orange County General website, and also through the FEMA website. It's a lot of, you know, same information, but all good information, just like what you've heard here tonight. So, preparing for disaster. Before a disaster, you got to prepare your family to be ready for this. You don't want to get them scared, but they got to be prepared. And another thing you can do is volunteer. Volunteer with your HOA. Volunteer on our CERT program to kind of learn how to help with evacuations. Be part of your neighborhood and help your neighbors. And you know that comes with learning too. Learning what you need to do to prepare. During a disaster, we ask you guys to stay calm. You panic and everything gets a little crazy, so just remain calm, and we'll help you through the disaster. Follow your emergency plan. Don't deviate from that. Make sure you pack what you are going to need for at least 3 days away from your home. Listen to instructions from authorities. You're going to hear a lot of evacuations from Alert OC. That's like a reverse 911 system. You're going to hear deputies driving through your neighborhood asking you to evacuate certain zones. I hope everyone knows what zone they live in. So listen to instructions. You may even hear those over the PA from our helicopter. After a disaster, it's a gradual process. It may take some time, but take care of yourself and your family. If you have damages, contact your insurance agent and replace those vital documents if needed. Hopefully you brought them with you. Like I said, know your zone. Where do you live? Because not everyone's going to get evacuated. Depending on the way, if it's a fire, depending on which way the fire's going, you may be safe at home, but know your zone in case someone gets on the phone and says, we're evacuating zone 19, which is here at City Hall, and get ready to go. Next slide. Technical difficulties?
You can find your zone on the city website.
Yeah.
It's very easy.
So some of the resources you have, like I said, are Alert OC. Also, FEMA has an application you can get on your phone. So make sure you download some of those apps. However, they may or may not work during a fire. So screenshot those checklists that you want to bring, stuff you want to bring with you. You know, you have disaster kits, emergency supplies. Have those in your garage next to your car. You don't have to have them in your car, but like my wife thinks I'm a little overkill, but I have a trash can in my garage with all my emergency stuff that I can just take out of the trash can and throw right into the back of my car. It goes real quick. I can get in and out of there in 2 or 3 minutes. So there's a short video. Hopefully the ad won't play, but it tells you what to do when there's an ad, when the deputy's driving through your neighborhood.
We're excited to share with our community a new feature in our patrol vehicles that will help alert residents to evacuation orders during a major emergency. Our patrol units are now equipped with a high-low siren, which produces a distinct sound that will be used when a mandatory evacuation order is in place during a fire, flood, or other emergency. Here's what it sounds like. The new siren also has an option to play a pre-recorded message announcing the evacuation order.
Attention, this is an emergency evacuation order. Remain calm. Follow the instructions of the emergency officials.
This new siren will not replace door-to-door evacuation notifications or aerial announcements, but it will supplement the tools we already have to notify you quickly in an emergency. It's also important for all residents to be signed up for Alert OC, which provides information on actions you need to take if impacted by an event such as a fire or flood. In an emergency, our priority is your safety. So remember, when you hear high-low, it's time to go.
So that's what you're going to hear. You're going to hear that siren going through your neighborhood. Also, like I said, you're going to hear the helicopter making announcements. They make very clear PA announcements with very clear instructions, so please follow those. Evacuations are going to be conducted by Orange County Sheriff personnel. I'm not going to say they're always going to be in uniform because resources will be stretched thin. We may be pulling people out of investigations and they're going to be in suits, but every one of them is going to have a badge that are going to be identifiable. So it's not going to be some looter walking through your neighborhood telling you to leave your house. So each residence will be contacted, and evacuee information is going to be loaded into a GIS map, which will give a response as to whether we made contact with you, whether you sheltered in place, or whether there was no contact, or whether you evacuated. So and we're going to update those maps as needed. So once you're evacuated, that's when you're worried, right? What's going on in my house? That's why we don't let people back into your neighborhoods. We're going to be blocking off streets. We're going to be working with fire to make sure no one gets back into your neighborhoods, and we're here to protect your property. So, like I said, back in the San Diego Canyon fires, my job for 3 weeks straight was looter protection. So I made sure I drove around the neighborhoods, making sure no one was breaking into houses. And the people that sheltered in place, a lot of homes were very well fire protected, and they were happy to see us in the neighborhood. So that's our job. The good thing about with the Sheriff's Department is we bring a lot of resources. We will go down to minimum staffing in our jailhouses and bring everybody out into your neighborhoods just to work patrol during these disasters. So we have a lot of resources. So finally, what's important? Number one is your safety. Everything else is secondary. Your family and yourself. That's what's most important. Also, be flexible. When asked to evacuate, follow directions out of the evacuated area. A lot of people tell us that they only know one way in and out of your neighborhood. You may need to find another way, and we'll direct you on how to get out of your neighborhood and the safest way to do that. Use common sense. Don't proceed in an area that's dangerous because it's the only way you've traveled. And lastly, don't panic. Resources may be impacted. Don't call 911 unless immediate, life-threatening dangers is going on. So, but that's all I got. I appreciate your time.
Great, thank you very, very much. We're going to move into our Q&A section, but there's a couple things I wanted to add. 2 weeks ago, our second meeting ago, the water department was in here, and they assured us that our reservoirs are full. There is ample supply of water. So those of you who've heard of reservoirs running out, that I've been assured by the water department is not an issue for you. As we move into our questions and answers, if you haven't, but you have a question, if you'd kindly either go over to our clerk or outside when you walked in, there's a speaker form. You could fill that out. That way we can bring you up and we'll address you individually. As you speak, if there's someone specific that you want to address it to, please let us know. That'll just help direct your question. If not, then I'll just let the panel come in as necessary. But with that, Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. The first speaker is John O'Connell, followed by David Webb.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's all good. To start with, I'm John O'Connell, and I want to thank each and every one of you for your interest in hosting this presentation and your time. Very important topic. I live on the top of the ridge overlooking the Los Alisos Gorge, and the mayor mentioned the Santa Ana winds, which whipped through that gorge with great ferocity for hours on end and days on end. And the city has allowed this area to become overgrown with vegetation. We talked about defensible space. 3 feet behind my property is a 60-foot pine tree that I can't do anything about because it's not on my property. I've written to the city before, and they tell me they're going to send somebody out every 6 months to take care of it, and they don't do anything. Just up the way, there's a 100-foot pine tree. I'm not joking. And its branches are outstretched like this, saying, please set me on fire. And we know what happens when these trees catch on fire. The embers circulate, and they hit the houses. If you give me written permission, I'll take care of that tree tomorrow. I've got photos here that will show you what I'm talking about.
Yeah. When you're done speaking.
So my house is the one in the center. I would really like to get that taken care of for safety reasons. The concerts at the lake are great. The Christmas lights on Marguerite are great. But the safety of me and my family and my house are much more important than that. I feel like this whole area needs to be really cleared out and taken care of and maintained. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for your comments. Do we want to address it now?
Yeah, let's address it.
It's okay, you can stay there.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Bob.
Mr. Longnecker, could you just give us a little bit of background from our meeting last Monday and also about the funds that we have been allocated for this, the clearance?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor Reish. So we had a workshop.
You are?
I'm sorry?
And you are?
Oh, Larry Longnecker. I am the director of the Community Development Department here at the city, and our department is processing the ordinance to adopt these maps as required by the state. So at the workshop we had a week ago, a lot of the same attendees that are here this evening were concerned about open space areas and clearing brush from those open space areas adjacent to their homes. The city has been awarded over $2 million in grant funds for that specific purpose to clear vegetation in these open space areas.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Okay, next speaker is, David Webb. Sorry, David. And that followed by Joel Ramatula. And you can correct me when you get up here.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you again. I know it's a lot, and first of all, thank you for your service. This is not probably what you signed up for when you went out and got elected. Thank you, Chiefs, for being here. My name's Dave Webb. And it's interesting, CAL FIRE didn't show up to our meeting today, too. I work for another city, and they have a fire discussion, and where are they is the question. But today, I heard a lot today, and thank you for the discussion on hardening our houses and hardening your property. I live on Basitas. It's the highest street up. It's right behind the hill. My AAA insurance just got canceled last week, and they told me it's because of that, 38-year person on that. So I'm working through that. But what I realized, too, is hardening is just one thing. We need to turn up the hardening of our houses and the fire defense. The other side is turning down the threat, and that's what I'm going to ask you tonight. We've looked at that brush behind our houses for as long as I've been here. I've been here almost 30 years. My neighbors are original owners, and there's nothing been done back there, and it's a concern. I understand the CEQA, the environmental, but we need to get serious about that. The fire department needs to get serious. The city needs to get serious about that. We need brush management. We need clearing. I know the governor's orders out there. It's only 30 feet. I wish it was 100 feet. We could probably do some clearing. But there's things you can probably do. There's a couple debris basins up there I've seen. They've never been cleared. You can probably get an order to clear those debris basins out from the original builder and get all that brush out of there. There's probably 2 that I know of, maybe 3. We can get a letter from the city maybe addressing what you folks are doing. There's a nice thing about the grant and what we're going to be doing. That might be able to be put on the website and to the insurance companies and others. That might give them some safeguards that the city's stepping up and actually taking care of these things. If you could do anything like that, that would be great. It would be good for the insurance companies to know exactly what the chief talked about. We have a Class A fire department. This threat is so much different than Palisades. We have a ring of fire hydrants around there. We have adequate water. We have helicopters. We have a lake to dip right there. We can be on that fire and be on it real quick. Different than Palisades, which had no water and had a huge runway with a fire chute going at them. So I think if we get some cleanup of that brush, trim those limbs up, get in there, it really does need it. I have a lot of friends in there. I walk those trails. It's thick. The undergrowth is thick. It really needs, maybe some of the old trails need to be bulldozed and cleaned up. Some crews go in there. That would help a lot because we need to reduce the threat along with harden the houses. That's what I'm asking you folks to do. Might take more than $2 million. I just increased my brush management in my city. We do a lot of it. I think we could do it here. I don't see much, but thank you very much for your time and all the information tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Webb, I noticed that your address wasn't on here, and you...
I'm in Mission Viejo. I live in Mission Viejo.
No, I know, but you mentioned your specific street, and...
I'm on Basitas.
Oh, okay.
It's the top street on there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just double checking with our staff. Do you know where he's talking about from a brush standpoint? Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Our next speaker?
Our next speaker is Joel. Thank you, and please pronounce your last name. I apologize. And following you will be Robert Stokesbury.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. It's Ramatula, so you did great.
Okay.
Thank you all for being here. Mine is just more of a continuation of the last 2 questions. Where I live is 26507 Dinnerall, which is next to in the Wilderness Glen. And in along that, we have a backside of the hill that has oak trees and managed by the city in that brush area. The city does great when we call about doing the eucalyptus or others, but with that, they say they will not trim the oak trees because they are a protected species. So I just wanted to make that as part of, something of concern, because those are trees that are, we have a particular tree when we went through the assessment that said trees shouldn't be within 100 feet of the line. So that tree has continued to grow. Now saplings are coming and inching up closer. So that's just my part.
Thank you. Okay, and then we have Robert Stokesbury, followed by Ted Bullicus.
Thank you very much, and I too want to thank all you guys for putting this on. Having come from a really intense fire zone up by Chino Hills before moving to Mission Viejo, I thought I knew it, but I've learned a lot of things tonight. I think,
I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the fire chief's name, but, question for you. I never heard anybody talking about, tempered glass windows before. Heard all the things about, getting rid of the curtains and the rest of it. What about this vinyl that's around all these replacement windows? Do you have any thoughts on that? I never thought about it until I saw the issue of, tempered glass.
I don't really have any thoughts. I think that, if you get the newer windows, they do come with the vinyl.
They do, and that's plastic.
Yeah.
You ever see any of those melt out on you?
I actually haven't. The tempered glass windows do a good job. Could it fail if it was taking enough heat? Probably. But the tempered glass, the newer windows do a really good job during the fires.
Having bought a house that was redone before we moved in, I have no idea if it's truly tempered glass. It is double pane. I guess, is that typically is that typically a gotta have a tempered glass if you have the double pane?
Well, double pane's good too. Just upgraded windows,
Yeah.
anything you can do for that is crucial, yeah. The vinyl, I don't have a good answer, I'm sorry for you.
And nobody's done anything on
looked
that?
to see that.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ted Bullicus, followed by Phyllis Arthur.
Yeah, I have two questions. One is, my house is on a green belt, and the green belt landscape is done by the HOA. And I guess the state wants 5 feet clearance, and mine's only 3. So is the city working with these HOAs to kind of get more of a clearance around these green belts? I would contact them directly, and they didn't really respond to me. They said they're working on it or something. So I don't know if the city is working with HOAs to get them to comply. Is 5 feet, I understand, is what the state was requiring right now.
Okay.
And the other question is, I just got my insurance renewal, it's through Costco, and they have some kind of a program where if there's a fire, they'll send some kind of fire safety group to come out and look at my house, and they say they're gonna block off the vents and see if there's anything around my house that can be taken care of. Now, have you guys heard of any of that program, or I forgot the name of it, but
I have seen that on fires lately. Certain insurance companies will send out, they have essentially people that would come out and scout the neighborhoods for the homes that could be impacted and maybe do some work before it's too dangerous. And then they come out afterwards also and check on your home.
okay, so that's usually when there's a fire imminent in the area or something like that, they would send somebody out.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and they're able to get in there.
Yeah, and like on the one for the HOA, I don't know if you guys are working with them or not, but I'm gonna contact them again and see what they say.
So does OCFA go out and look at those perimeter areas?
When we're on the fires, we do, but we don't, it's more the insurance company that'll come look at specific homes that
That's
they're
what
insuring.
that's what I understand is the insurance.
We're always out there looking at them during these fires anyway, constantly. We're driving the neighborhoods and checking them. They're more to check their insured homes.
Yeah, my wife also signed up for somebody to come out and do our house inspection, and they never got back to her, so I guess we'll have to request that again.
Okay, perfect.
All right, thanks a lot.
Make sure we get that, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would just ask staff if you're aware of any program with that 5 to 10 foot clearance, and he said it's only 3, but are you aware of any proactive things that we're doing right now to ask the HOAs to maintain that?
I'm not aware of any program to help finance that clearing. If it's property that's owned by the HOA, then the city will coordinate and advise, but it's the HOA's responsibility to clear it.
But we do weed inspections, correct?
We have a weed abatement program
Mm-hmm.
that is performed annually, and we contact property owners and ask them to clear the weeds on their property, and if necessary, the city will go in and clear them.
Okay. Okay, so that partially answers, I think, that question. Thank you. Next, we have Phyllis Arthur, followed by Satina Gulati.
Good evening. Thank you for doing this presentation. I'm an original owner, 1971, and I overlook the beautiful Wilderness Glen area, which has become a tremendous concern for many of us that live on the Glen, mostly because Mission Viejo, I believe, manages it for Orange County, that Orange County owns the property. And I have been told numerous times, as my neighbor John here mentioned, that they do not cut the trees down that are adjacent to our homes and affect our policies, that they only take them down if they're dead. Well, are we going to wait until there's a fire and there would be dead and our homes are all gone? I feel that Orange County, with the help of Mission Viejo, needs to remove the trees that are so close to our homes. The pine needles are just gathering all the time, and they're kindling for the fires. I have a huge eucalyptus tree that's on the bank, which belongs to the county. I removed 3 200-foot eucalyptus trees from my property a few years ago. It cost me $6,000 to do that. We also have a problem with these homeless encampments that have been starting to live in the Glen. They cleared one out not too long ago. They had sofas and chairs, and I really think that the gardening crew that comes every week to the Seville Park should be reporting those groups to the police department, and they can get them out. We've never really had a fire in the Wilderness Glen in the 50 years that we've lived there, and I really hope that we will all take this very seriously and not only ask us to harden our property, but to get that glen cleared up. There are many, many palm trees that are there that have all the dead fronds on them. This huge Monterey pine that was planted, I believe, by a neighbor of mine 60 years ago is there still, and it really is dangerous, and I don't know why they can't get rid of it, or the eucalyptus tree that's behind my home. They're beautiful, but they are dangerous. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Satina Gulati, followed by Ralph Bobson.
Hi, I'm Satina. I live in Mission Viejo on Sonoita, right near the lake. And couple things. One thing, a big question, since we're talking about insurance and trying to kind of focus on that now. Last week when we were here, a lot of us are concerned about the rising insurance rates for all of us. Obviously, the fact that now we have this bullseye that a lot of us are in, we're concerned that our rates are going to go up. So a big question, I think, on the insurance side especially is, can we get some sort of like certificate for a discount or something if we harden our homes, if we include fire suppression units, if we do something to improve our ability to defend our own house at least, if there's some sort of like a discount we could get with the insurance companies or something to prove that our house is protected a little bit more so. Off of Los Alisos, just another thing, off of Los Alisos and Vista del Lago is another bad brush area, that entire hill. I know my insurance company, AAA, almost didn't insure me because of that area. So luckily I was far enough from it when they did the aerial view, but I'm sure a lot of my neighbors probably didn't get insured because of that area. So I think that really needs to be cleared out. And then I know there's a lot of people here, me, myself, single mom, it's not easy to cut down giant trees from our homes. So I don't know if Mission Viejo has any grants available for people or any kind of low-interest loans for people that, you know, there's a lot of elderly that are on fixed incomes that maybe don't have the ability to do things like this, that maybe Mission Viejo can help them with. Another big thing everybody was talking about is how the insurance companies have to, like the California Fair Plan, the insurance companies have to pay all of this money to cover the Fair Plan. What happens to all the FEMA money? Where does all that go? Why doesn't it cover anything? Why do all of us have to kind of pay for it through our insurance? So I don't know what happens with that, why it doesn't ever cover anything. And then the last thing is the bullseye zone. A lot of us were talking about it last week. You guys weren't here, so it's nice that you're here. Thank you. But we want to know if we could push back at all on that bullseye zone. If we get some of this brush cleared out, if there's something that we do to clean it up, if the city can clean it up, maybe put a park in some of those areas where it's not just wild brush that could burn down, if we can somehow get CAL FIRE to downgrade us from this severe fire, you know, whatever the bullseye, I forgot what they call it, but, where we're in a fire danger zone. So those are my things. Oh, and lastly, I have Firefighter One, which is a way to pool water, to get your pool water out. If anybody here wants to know about it, you guys can let me know, but it's a way to access your pool water, and it has a fire retardant that you can spray and evacuate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, there was a lot there. So Jerry, I'm gonna have you, address what you can, and then I'm gonna, Jamie, I'll have you address the insurance aspect, and we don't have anybody here to address from CAL FIRE, so.
Right, good evening, everyone. Just to let you know that, city staff does work very closely with Shane's team, of OCFA staff in inspecting all of our open spaces annually. We've just starting to do that, this time of year, which does trigger some direction from OCFA with the clearing and the thinning of the 100-foot defensible space area. With regards to the $2 million grant we were awarded last year, we spent the better part of 2024 working on the environmental aspects. That's all done. The sequence is done for that. We're currently out to bid right now. Actually, bids are due Wednesday this week. And then hopefully we'll be taking that to City Council for award. And then the work for the thinning and the clearing in the 100-foot defensible space, as well as there's a 50-foot roadside clearance in there as well, and thinning. So that will help around the perimeter of some of these areas. That work will start this summer. So I just wanted to share that with everybody.
Thank you. And then I also, Jamie, from Prendeville, and then I'll also see if, Andrea from our state insurance would like to speak.
Okay, yeah. All right, there we go. Yeah, I can only speak to the policies we've written recently. I don't know if the insurance companies actually give discounts if you've hardened your home against fire, but I know it certainly would help in a loss control inspection when they see the steps that you've taken, and that might help your eligibility for renewal. I actually wrote an article about this. I'm still in the process of writing it, doing the research, but I think if they don't provide the discounts, I think that's probably where it's going to be heading, or at least in some part. There's that FireWise program that I've been hearing about, and I think that, if you can participate in that may affect the insurance rates that you're getting and perhaps even lead to a discount. But I think that's where it's probably heading.
Yeah. Lisa, do you want to go ahead?
Go right ahead, Andrea.
Hi.
Anything?
Hi. Good afternoon, Lisa.
Oh, we have Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
Hi. So sweet Andrea just came back from maternity leave, and lots has changed in the 8 months she's been gone. So that's the only reason I'm here. She's more than capable, but she's been gone. So, anywho, to address the question about discounts, we do have a program that Andrea briefly mentioned, which is the Safer from Wildfire Framework. And we can send some information to you if you want to, blast it out to the community. But essentially, insurance companies will provide discounts if you do work in sort of 3 of the buckets, right? So there's some work you can do that protects your home or business. There's some mitigation work you can do to protect your community and your surroundings. For the community, there are 2 designations that automatically qualify for a discount. One is the FireWise community that I just heard mentioned. And then the other one is a fire risk reduction community, and that's a Board of Forestry certification. I did just look at the list, and I don't see Orange County or Mission Viejo listed for that, but not to worry. I'm sure some of your communities are FireWise, and if not, we can definitely, something that you might want to talk about within your communities to form. It's easy to do and super important. And what we find when folks do that, is they also sort of bind together as a community, right? So if there is someone who's a single mom and needs help kind of, with some of the work around her property, the neighbors all chip in, right? Maybe it's this weekend we rent some sort of machine that does, I don't know, like a chipper program, right? They come in and, whittle up all the wood that you've cut from when you cut down trees and stuff. And then everyone kind of pitches in on the money and rents that machine. There's all these kinds of things that the community does together while they're getting ready to become certified through this program. So that's very, very important. And as I said, the insurance companies are required to give you discounts, and that includes the FAIR plan as well. So if you've done some of this work, please reach out to your agent or broker and see what kind of discount you can get. And then I just wanted to share one quick thing. We are, the commissioner is sponsoring some legislation. It's AB 888, and it is the California Safe Homes Act. And what it will do if it passes is establish a grant program within the Department of Insurance to support qualifying residents in obtaining new or fire safe roofs and other fire safe actions within 5 feet of your structure. So we're kind of letting folks know that this is working its way through the legislature, because if you have time to look it up and want to write to the author in support of it, that would be super helpful, because we realize there's lots of folks that could use help in making their houses safer. So I hope that information helps.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And then I would say, just in the pushing back, I would say, what are the possibilities? I know how this went the last time. So why don't you share?
From what I understand, as you can tell, I'm over 2 on my questions so far. So the brains of the operation are back there. They could answer it better. But from what I understand, the city does not have the ability. The maps are what the maps are. The city does not have the ability to weigh in on the maps as they were drawn. The only thing the city can do, or cities can do, is extend the maps further. So should any city decide to expand the map out, they don't have the capability to shrink the map. Irregardless, like mentioned, it was a hazard that was evaluated, not the risk. So yeah, the city does not have the ability to do any sort of changes.
Thank you. Okay, the next speaker is Ralph Bobson, followed by Lori Rudolph.
Okay, Ralph Bobson. I live on Dalmaron Street in Mission Viejo, and I'm a little overwhelmed. I'm thinking, I've lived here for 30 years. Came here because it's one of the safest communities in the world, and I'm a little overwhelmed now. I'm thinking it might be easier just to move. My house is at risk. My finances are at risk. Everything is going up here. Water is going to, over the next 3 years, 40% increase. Nobody, insurance now. So yeah, I'm kind of frustrated. I'm listening. I've been to 2 of these meetings now, and it's all about what I can do, what we can do. And I can do that. I can do the hardening things. It's never about what you can do as a city. This Canaveral slope area has been there since I came. Do I think it's a serious risk? Well, it hasn't been a forest fire or any wildfire here in 100 years. So no, I feel like I live in the middle of Mission Viejo, the city that sells itself on wooded trails and, beautiful landscaping. And we certainly spent enough money on it. I mean, we bought a golf course, and we immediately went to work, defoliating the golf course and taking care of all the hazards there. We own a swimming pool complex that we pay for that's, used by international people, not necessarily by a lot of the people in Mission Viejo. We're constantly planting trees. Marguerite Parkway is constantly being, there's landscapers galore going up and down Marguerite Parkway. This land, that's, I believe, the reason why my home is now in a fire hazard zone, as if it was on the edge of the Cleveland National Forest, is a relatively small area that the city owns, if I'm not mistaken, and has done really nothing about. My HOA has, the land they take care of is all irrigated, and it's all been, these hillsides are constantly being cut down. There's no more trees on my hillside. And there's low brush there. I'm sure it's, something that you guys have recommended that it should be to be fire resistant. But the other side of the hillside is owned by the city, and nothing's been done. $2 million is not a lot of money. We all know that today. It's not a lot of money. You're not going to accomplish what needs to be accomplished in helping the city become safe again with $2 million. So you're going to have to prioritize differently, I think. Certainly we have a big landscaping budget, but why can't we prioritize that on these areas, these very few specific areas? I wouldn't be arguing if I was, living like next to a huge area, but this is all manageable stuff. And one last thing, I had my roof redone, reskinned, not that long ago, certainly after 2008. I was never told there was any, fire things that I could do for that roof. I gladly would have done it at the time. Maybe they did. It's permitted. But are you informing people when they come for a roof permit that, there's something they could be doing to get better, better fire protection on their roofs? I don't know. I just think you guys need to soul search yourself and have a meeting where we talk about what Mission Viejo is going to do to help us.
Thank you. Want to have staff address?
Yeah, let's go.
So let's talk about our slope renovations we have been doing along corridors and streets, Jerry, and then also on the permits for roofs, what's required? Or Larry, whomever, Jerry, Larry, whomever.
I can speak to the slope renovations, yes. We've been steadily progressing over the years. Each year we choose a section. We've been removing, although I'm pro-tree, we have been removing some of the problematic large eucalyptus trees around town that have just simply outgrown their environment, and it was time for them to go. So, yes, we started, I want to say 15 years ago, the south end of town, working our way up on different arterial streets and whatnot. Right now we're working on La Paz Road for the slope renovation. So we are making progress. And we will be doing work in the open spaces as well. This is our time of year to start doing that. So anyways, that's in regards to the slope renovations, and I'll let Larry take the roofs.
Yeah, I can speak to the building code requirements for new roofs. For some years now, maybe even as early as 2008, a Class A fire-rated roof has been required by the building code. So if you've done a re-roof any time in the recent years, it meets the fire resistance requirements. There are some new building code requirements that have been mentioned already this evening that have to do with fire-resistant siding for your exterior walls, and the dual pane and the tempered glass windows, the ember-resistant vents going from 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch, and then some fire-resistant decking materials. But the Class A fire-rated roof has been required for a number of years now.
Thank you. The next speaker is Lori Rudolph, followed by Joe Tully.
We've got about 5 more speakers, and we're going to have to cut it off. We're going to go a little bit long, so I hope for your indulgence. But I want to try and accommodate everybody at this point as well, so please.
Yeah, this is the last speaker. We just got the last speaker card. Thank you.
Hi, first of all, thank you very much for this important forum. I'm Lori Rudolph. I live in Quail Run on Wingate, and we butt up to O'Neill Park. And O'Neill Park has lots of dry brush. I'm not sure the jurisdiction, who's responsible for that, and as a Mission Viejo homeowner, what, if anything, can we do to get O'Neill Park? Is that a county property? How does that work? And who's taking care of that? And my second question is going to be on the vents that they talk about. I have a handyman and different people come to my house. Who replaces those vents? They're really hard to get to. And I would love, somebody's card to replace our vents, because I would like to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. O'Neill Park, go ahead and take that. Or, would you like to? It's the county.
Well, it's county
county.
property, so, sorry. Yeah, that's exactly, it's county property. We'll certainly make them aware of conversations we've had here. So that part we can handle, and then.
Yeah, as far as the vents, yeah, I would think you would have to get a contract. I don't have a card for a specific contractor, but I know they are difficult. Mine are brutal to get to, so it is difficult, but I would think a contractor would be able to find a way to get up in there.
Thank you. Next speaker is Joe Tully, followed by Ann Cooling.
First of all, I want to thank the city for putting on this presentation for insurance. Very valuable information. Thank you, gentlemen, for all your help in this meeting. I get a little disappointed when I hear a lot of excuses about environmental climate issues being the problem. If you look around at most of the fires and a lot of the fires, you find out there's arson. You find out there's accidental fires started. Look at the airport fire. How did that start, gentlemen? Can you answer that?
Go ahead and ask all your questions.
Keep going, Joe.
Okay. So the problem here is that we have a bullseye right there in the northern part of our city. And if a lot of the people that are here live in that area, if they look around the city, they're going to see communities, the rest of the community is very much like their homes. There's green belts around them, and it's not a high hazard area. We all know why there's a high hazard area there. It's because of the fuel issues laden in that property, owned by the city. Now, I think, I agree 100% that everyone here can harden their homes. That's important to do, no matter what, here in California. But the bottom line is, there's fuel laying there. Now, I work for an oil company. I know what fuel does. We had tanks, thousands, hundreds of thousands of gallons of fuel sitting in tanks. And we would harden those areas by building dikes, putting in fire suppression systems, and we would be responsible for that product, okay? The city is responsible for their own property, and that property is a hazard to the people living in the city. So we need to work on getting rid of that hazard, removing that hazard for our residents. I think, if I'm right, Wendy, you're the representative for that area over there.
Well, I think we all represent the whole city, but yes,
Well,
that
you
is
do.
in my district.
Yeah, but because of
That's,
recent,
we do look at it like
yeah,
that.
recent progress has divided things up quite unfairly. I would
Absolutely,
say.
but we all
Yeah.
care, we care about everything.
I understand that, and I know every city council person sitting here on our council currently is interested in the welfare of our community. I have no doubt about that. And I have worked very extensively with Jerry Hill. I'm not on the board of one of the largest associations, but that association covers that whole area up there. So a lot of our members are at higher risk hazard with their homes now, because of these new maps. But I just want to encourage the city to consider to continue to do development in those areas to clean up the fuel hazard that's just laying there. I don't want to belabor it anymore. I think everybody's pretty much touched on that issue, and I know the city is trying to do the best to mitigate it and cover that area. So thank you for your efforts. Eric, I said one thing that kind of popped out at me. He said that the most flammable neighbor you have is what raises your risk. Unfortunately, that's the city.
Thank you. You want to address the airport fire? Cause of the airport fire? It was an accident.
Let's just move on.
It was an accident.
Move on. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to be.
Okay.
You can.
Thank you. We did talk about what we're doing in that wilderness area. Okay, the next speaker is Ann Cooling. I'm sorry, Ann, to delay you. Followed by, I'm sorry. Okay, we did talk about it. We talked about the $2 million and actually staff has talked about it twice. We'll repeat it. We'll repeat it. We'll repeat it.
That's being discussed and handled now. We're looking to hire contractors. So you just have to stand by because that has to come to council after we get the bids to take care of the different areas. Then we'll divvy those out. But right now, it's in process, so I can't give you exactly where and when because it's in process.
Ann Cooling, followed by John Summers.
I just wanted to echo the gratitude for this meeting. I have two short items. One, I too live in Wilderness Glen, that red dot over there, and I have seen somebody 3 times filling up a large back of their truck with a water thing, and there's with a large fire hydrant next to the Wilderness Glen, and he's filling up gallons and gallons of water from it. The fire hydrant has a nozzle sticking out of it that wasn't there before in order to attach the hose. And I called the city this morning, but I wasn't sure who to call, and it seemed like you were the right person to talk to. The truck's name was Witch Ditch, and it's broadband services. But I don't want him taking our water unless there's a reason for it, and maybe that's above my pay grade to know, but I just wanted you to be aware of it. My second thing is, we moved to Wilderness Glen because I came from the East Coast and I love the wilderness. I walk there every day with my dog, and because I walk there every day all around the trails, I'm aware of what some other things that have been reported today. The palm fronds have been there for years, and it just gets worse and worse. And they're just dry, dead layers hanging down. So there's a lot that can be done, and I hope that your bids don't take forever in getting it done. However, I also would like to suggest that in that $2 million, that you don't take away what we love as well. Maybe there's fire-reducing plants that can replace some of the things that you're taking away, but what we love about the place is that it's a beautiful place to walk. So I think that and also if you take too much away, then you have landslide issues. We all live on a hill. So I know that you'll be thoughtful about doing this to keep the beauty of our city and to get away the brush and the fire hazardous things. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I don't know exactly what that person's doing. The Ditch Witch seems to be a ditch digging device of some sort, so I don't know if he's filling up for extra weight or what that is. So it'd be between the contractor and whether or not they pay for that water, but I'm not aware of, honestly, what that would be.
It would be a contractor for sides, fiber optic network, installation.
Oh, thank you.
Doing it.
Okay, Stan.
And they fill it, is it for weight that they fill it, or is it
Yeah, we'll look into
water for it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah, thank you. John Summers, followed by Priscilla Billette.
Hi, I'm John Summers. I'm a resident of Mission Viejo for 40 years, and I live near what we like to call now the volcano in Mission Viejo. I'm actually a insurance agent, broker. I've been an agent for 40 years. I started a little before Patrick Prindiville did with farmers, now independent, but I just wanted to address the situation insurance-wise. Hardening is great of homes. I think it's an awesome idea. However, I'm really not aware of any carriers other than Fair Plan that are giving discounts for doing that. I doubt that it would get you or keep you from getting non-renewed also. So just putting that out there that it's a great idea, but it's not really going to address the issue that we have right now. The one thing I do want to ask, the only thing that's really going to help this situation at hand is to address the brush area that we're all aware of. I'm curious how long you guys have been aware of this issue. Has CAL FIRE I have a good friend who just retired from OCFA. My son works for OCFA, so I love you guys. I appreciate everything you do. But he doesn't like the fact that CAL FIRE is sticking their nose into this because they don't have jurisdiction over our city. So I'm curious, has this come up before? Did you guys ever get an exemption before on a map?
CAL FIRE is what, every 10 years?
Yeah.
So every 10 years, they create the map, and as you kind of heard, it's the state policy. They set that tone. As a city, we have, the only jurisdiction is to extend it. We don't have the ability to, hey, this has been changed, can you remitigate that mitigation, or
Well, I'm
look what
curious,
happened next month.
has CAL FIRE consulted with OCFA on this?
We were not consulted, correct, on the maps? Yeah.
I mean, it's my understanding, and this is from somebody who has worked for OCFA for a long time, that if there was a fire to start, that it really wouldn't go very far because of the ridge there. It basically would stop at the ridge. So I'm not sure why CAL FIRE is considering this such a high hazard area. There's no canyons, no mountains attached to it. There's really no reason for it. And I'm curious if you guys, went into detail with them on it, or if you just said, oh, okay, well, we'll just lay down and die on this.
Well, I don't want to, and I'm going to just address that right now, too.
Okay, we can talk about it later.
But I'm going to tell you right now that there's a sign over there that says CAL FIRE.
Yeah, well, and they chose not to be here, so that tells you a lot right there.
They did not respond, and they are not here.
Right.
And they have not responded, and as a member of OCFA, I know that's also quite true. So they're more or less autonomous. Yes, it's a difficult proposition. It's hard for me to tell you, look, there's another entity out there that has control over this, and in their magic box, they do it. But
yeah,
we can complain, and we will.
Unfortunately, I'm well aware of the train wreck that is insurance in California right now, and I'm well aware of what's going on in other areas of the state that need to be addressed, but that's a whole nother issue. So my question is, make this very brief.
Please.
Yes.
As far as addressing that area, is there any environmental issues or subsidence in that area that would come into play if we tried to make changes there in that open area?
Okay, is that all your questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Staff?
go ahead.
I don't know, changes such as what?
Environmental
we were going to clear it out, maybe develop it.
I don't know about the development side of it, but we are working with environmental biologists to ensure that what we do does comply with all CEQA requirements for the next phase of the 100-foot slope or 100-foot defensible space clearance, yes.
Well, defensible space is great, but I don't think CAL FIRE is going to change their map from the defensible space.
That's correct.
That's correct.
So it basically needs to be cleared out.
Yes, so, okay. Yes, thank you. Okay, the next speaker is Grisila. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing, Bellet, and followed by our final speaker, who is Dale Jones.
It's okay. Don't worry about my name. Nobody can pronounce it. It's Graciela Belletti.
Oh, that's much more beautiful than I said it.
Thank you. And thank you for being here, all of you. I appreciate it. I know it's late. We all have family. Mr. Witt, excuse me if I don't pronounce your name correctly. I have sent an email, and you took care of partially of the situation in the street of Escorial, the so-called natural area. It's a big hill that holds 2 water tanks that are empty due to a specific situation. And 3/4 of that hill is taken care of. 1/4, which is the part that faces Escorial, was a disaster. Brush, dry brush, terribly horrible, extremely dangerous. I call your attention to that, and you were graciously answer really fast and send people to supposedly take care of. They did very minimum, very minimum. We still have that hill that is a fire hazard. As soon as everything dries out again, and is many volunteer trees in that hill. I have lived in the same house for 54 years. Nobody ever did anything at all on that hill, except for this time when they did partial minimum cleanup. And so that brings me, I live across that hill. That brings me to this whole situation of this new map that now we are all in this dangerous zone. And whoever determines that, I don't think they have actually seen the whole area, and the city have not really taken care of properly of those particular areas. And hopefully, you guys can do something about those maps. I don't know what is possible to be done, but it's not fair for us to live here for so long, and now, in my particular case, limited income, to have to suffer because those areas have not been taken care of, or whoever is watching and deciding that that area is a hazardous area. And now we around it, which have been complaining, are going to have to pay more for our insurance.
Can I get your address again, please?
Yes,
Could you write it?
My address is 23091 Via Santa Maria.
23091 Via Santa Maria?
Yes, I'm right in the corner of Via Santa Maria and Escorial. And the hill that I'm talking about is the hill that faces Via Escorial. And right behind, in front of that hill, is many houses that are more dangerous than me because I'm across the street. I'm supposed to be a little safer, I guess.
All right, well,
But-
thank you. We'll look into that again. I
Yes.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
And our last speaker is?
Dale Jones.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for putting this together. There's a lot of good information that's been come out over the last 2 weeks. My wife and I moved back to California 5 years ago, roughly, and settled here in Mission Viejo. For 11 years, I was a volunteer firefighter, as well as my main expertise was technical rescue. But I was trained as a wildland firefighter, hotshot crew. My question is, what is the city doing and other cities like us putting pressure on the state of California to clean up their act regarding these power lines, the equipment that's failing and starting these fires? Is there anything being done? Because we know that so many of these fires are started because of faulty equipment, power lines go down. And it seems like nothing is being done to solve the problem. It's just they're laying the responsibility on the cities, the residents, and saying, basically, it's your problem, you got to clean up your act. And I think that has to start from the top. And I think that has to start because from the cities putting pressure on the state of California. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, so I would say a lot of the comments are, we really appreciate it, and you can see that we're doing mitigation in that area that was mentioned, and we will be reporting on that on a regular basis at our city council meetings for the hot spot, the wilderness area that is on that map, the bullseye, I think somebody said volcano. We know it's important, and clearly the grant was started some time ago. The environmental mitigation has gone through. But I want to say something about the state, and I want to say there's a theme. So I don't know if you've also heard about our housing element and how we were mandated to zone for a certain amount of housing by the state. We pushed back. We pushed back a lot. There is a trend happening in California, and that is that they're taking away local control, the state of California. I'm going to make this really simple for everybody. It is a one-party system in the state of California, and there's not a balance. And I mean, it can go both ways. But in the state of California, who has been in power for a very long time, is not working. And you are here talking about what's happening with what is being put down onto us, and we need to push back. We do everything we can. We're on regional boards. We go to Sacramento. We work very hard, as do many of your neighboring cities, to do everything we can to let the state of California know what our constituents are saying, how we take care of things differently than the county of Los Angeles. We do things different here, and it's a one-size-fits-all. So we are hearing what you say, but I wanted to just say that because I'm very involved in the housing aspect of it, and there is a trend happening which we're hoping we can mitigate, and that is making sure that we gain back some local control. So I appreciate that everybody is noticing that, and we're going to do everything we can to be good partners with you in taking care of things in our city. So thank you.
All right. Well, first, before we close this out, I want to thank our panelists. You all have hung in there. I appreciate it, as I think everyone in the audience does, the information that you've delivered to us. This is a passion of mine. I wanted to get this delivered to us. I think we've done a pretty good job of at least addressing some of these issues. It's a complex problem. We as a city have a lot to do. We do. But also, I think we've given you some information. And the best thing I can tell you as well is we need to move forward with the things we need to be able to help is make your plan today. Don't let what we heard tonight, go away. Tomorrow, if you need to talk to your agent, talk to your agent. Start by committing to a plan, preparing, taking pictures, assessing your inventory, what you have. This is probably just as important as what we can do. This is a long-term project, but we need you and us to work together to be able to help keep your house, your home is safe. And as I started this out, in the instance, if there is a fire, I hope that yours is the one you come back to because that's the best possible information I can give you. But we as the city, as your elected representatives, want to give you the best possible chance of avoiding a wildfire. We will continue to work towards that. I thank you for spending not just the 2 hours, but a little extra time coming here and showing us your support. It means a lot to us as well. And my council colleagues, those that aren't here but will hear about this as well, will continue to work to the best job that we can to be your representatives. And I thank you.
And thank you to the State Insurance Commissioner's Office. We appreciate it, and thanks for listening.